Council meeting on Tuesday, August 20th, 2013 at 7:04 p.m. I'll ask for confirmation of the appropriate meeting notice.
The agenda was posted at Dave's Days Hardware, Shaw Municipal Center, and Piggly Wiggly.
Okay, thank you. Number 2, we'll welcome citizens and address any questions and concerns not on the agenda. Seeing none, we'll move on to item 3, the consent agenda. Do I have a motion? Motion to approve the consent agenda. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 4, item A, discussion and possible action regarding Resolution 2013-22, resolution awarding the sale of $1.965 million in general obligation corporate purpose bonds, Series 2013A.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As requested by the council at their July 16th meeting, staff did work with Ehlers and Associates to take out to sale general obligation borrowing for our police department and proposed renovations of our public library. We do have staff here from Ehlers. That sale was conducted today, and they're here to report on the results of those sales.
Good evening, Council. I'm happy to be here to share the results of your GO corporate purpose bonds in the amount of $1,965,000 that was sold at 11 a.m. today. If you would take out your sale report packet, we'll go through this together. On the first page after the cover are the results of today's sale. You had 2 bidders, and the winning bidder was Baird out of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, with a true interest rate of 3.7399%. The results of that is on this first page. On the next page is the second bidder, Bosk, out of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, with a true interest rate of 3.9365%. On the next page, page 3, are the final sizing details for the sale results today compared to the pre-sale estimates that we went over when I was here in June. And what I wanted to point out to you first is in the middle of the page, if you look at the column with the green heading, there was a premium that was paid for your bonds in the amount of $37,218. So what that is the winning bidder, Baird, paid more for your bonds than you had requested. And the reason that they did that is so that they are able to better market your bonds to investors. And what the premium essentially did is gave you an additional amount that becomes a credit to the transaction. So what we did with this additional amount was used it for 2 purposes. The first purpose is that we downsized the issue by $25,000. If you'll see in the column with the red, the authorized bond amount that you authorized in June was $1,965,000. The amount that was sold today under the green headed column was $1,940,000, so $25,000 less. The second purpose was, if you go back to that middle of the page, was $13,938 was deposited into your debt service fund, and that is going to be used to assist in making your first interest payment. On the next page is, on page 4, is the debt service impact of the new 2013 GO corporate purpose bonds. On the left is the summary of the existing debt and the debt tax levy and rate. In the middle yellow columns are the principal and interest payments for the new bond over the next 20 years. The total principal and interest payments will be approximately $5,000 higher than the pre-sale estimates that we showed you in June. And then in the green column on the right is the resulting debt tax levy and rate with the new bonds.
Why are they higher?
Because there was why is there an additional $5,000 in interest, in total principal and interest cost, or total principal and interest payment? That is because, I guess, why don't I let Todd answer that?
This kind of leads into the next page
Yeah.
here.
Okay.
So maybe Maureen, if you want to just talk about the
Okay.
BBI, and his short story is rates have been going
Okay.
up almost on a weekly basis.
Okay, so yeah, why don't I go ahead and explain the next page, and then you can let me know if you have any additional questions. Sound good? Okay, on page 5, we've included a chart of the interest rate trends in the municipal market over the last 12 months. And since we were here in June, you can see that interest rates have increased significantly over the last 60 days. So that is why today's sale results have a higher interest cost than our previous estimated runs. However, today's interest rates are still favorable compared to the long-term historical rates. Does that answer your question, Edna? Okay.
Make me happy, but it answers my
Sure,
question.
sure. On the next page, page 6 through 10, in your packet includes the rating report from Moody's Investor Services. As part of the issuance process, you applied for an updated rating, and Moody's affirmed the city's previous rating at a A1. The full report is included for your review, and I would encourage you to look through it. There's a lot of good information about the city. You have the bond resolutions prepared by your bond attorney in front of you. If you approve the bid results, authorization of the resolutions would be the next steps. Any other questions?
Anyone have any questions or need more time?
Mr. Mayor, I just have a few things to say. Obviously, when we do capital borrowing in capital projects, we seek estimates, we seek forecasts, and then we put in planning documents in place. These particular capital projects have been obviously very, very important to our community, and the timing of them was such that they happened in what I would consider a very, very planned and strategic effort, but also at the same time in somewhat of a compressed effort when one looks at our historical borrowing over the last 10 years. And when you're talking about borrowing, millions of dollars over 20 years, one of the things that we look at are not only what are the immediate impacts, but what are the costs of borrowing that money. And so some historical perspective, I feel, is appropriate over the last 10 years of issuances that we've done in the city. In 2005, in 2007, I should say, when we borrowed approximately $5 million to do road projects, we were somewhere between 4 and 5% interest rates, more than we're obviously paying tonight. In 2011, when we borrowed $3 million to do a new public works facility, we borrowed money at interest rates that were $286,000 less than pre-sale estimates. So much less expensive than we even first anticipated when we thought that we were going to pay to borrow that. These interest rates tonight are definitely not as good as they were, 3 months ago, 6 months ago, but they're still much better than historically they've looked at over the 10-year period that we borrowed money. They're still in a very optimal rate, and therefore staff would recommend that you accept the sale of these bids, of these bonds tonight.
Okay, the recommended action tonight is to adopt the resolution 2013-22.
Move to adopt resolution 2013-22.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item B, discussion and possible action on proposed reorganization of Public Works Department.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. When we were negotiating the contract for our Public Works Department that expired at the end of this year, we had also looked at recognizing that we're all going to have to develop a new employee handbook. And in seeking to find ways to be more responsive to some concerns that were brought up during budget workshops over the budget breakfast tour, as well as to find ways to accommodate new,
Go ahead.
new things that were incorporated into the city's budget and service plan, like the ice skating rink and the splash pad. Really felt that we need to balance effectiveness and efficiency while still treating our employees appropriately, and being able to keep existing good employees who are working for us, and then also from a recruitment and retention standpoint moving forward, a more streamlined Public Works Department that will include 4 divisions. Right now, our Public Works Department is really quite small, comparatively speaking, to the number of job tasks that we assign the unit. Within our Public Works Department is our Streets Department, our wastewater and stormwater management, and our water utility. And we're encouraging that the council adopt a plan that I've had discussions with not only Mayor Frazier, but Public Works Director Robinson about specific task accountability for public buildings and grounds. As we make considerable investment into our city's more than 170 acres of parks, in addition to multi-million-dollar facilities in our expanded Public Works Department now, and our new police department, as well as an expanded city library, that an emphasis on maintaining those facilities should be given a priority in our budget. And so inherent with that theme is the proposed establishment of a Public Buildings and Grounds Division, and whereby there would be dedicated staff members that would maintain city facilities and city parks, and so there's a greater emphasis placed in those areas in the budget. We ask that in that process that you also further endorse becoming more efficient in our operations in a 2014 world where we will not have a union contract that will dictate overtime to be worked on weekends. We'll have the ability to get work done on straight time on weekends. We are recommending that the wage adjustments for those employees who will have to work weekends on straight time be consummate with their required licensing and skill sets. Those are employees that will work in our wastewater department and our water department. They have to have certain state certifications to do so. We'll also have on-call requirements to work on the weekends. And that by getting some of that work at straight time and giving those employees a wage adjustment to accommodate those new work schedules, we'll be able to free up some budget capacity to add the additional staff without negatively impacting employees other than the adjustment of working on weekends on straight time. So the proposed wage adjustments, I think, are a good balance. I've had the discussion with our employees in the Public Works Department who would be assigned to work those weekends, as well as with Director Robinson, and shared the proposal with the Personnel and Finance Committee tonight, and they're unanimously recommending that the council approve the reorganization as presented.
Comments? Concerns? Okay.
I propose that we approve the reorganization plan and wage adjustments as presented.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. Mayor, just for a point of clarification, if it could be reflected in the minutes, that this will be, the reorganization will be presented with the 2014 proposed budget, and that the wage adjustments would take effect 1/1 of 2014.
Item C, discussion and possible action on amendments to the city employee handbook, inclusion of domestic partner benefits.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We had now written notification that one of our long-term tenured employees in the Public Works Department will be retiring. We had introduced a succession plan for which Director Robinson had introduced and implemented, whereby promotions were made and employees are being trained. But now that we are going to, for certain, have at least one vacancy due to retirement, depending on the decisions that you make during budget development, potentially a second position in a reorganized Public Works Department, it was very important to Mayor Frazier that the issues pertaining to the benefits that we offer in our recruitment of those new positions be inclusive of having domestic partner benefits. And so you've seen a lot of other municipalities and school districts make sure that that particular issue was addressed. Throughout the upcoming meetings, you'll see a variety of different staff recommendations related to our employee handbook, because everything that used to be in the Public Works contract that no longer will be in a contract needs to transcend itself into a employee handbook. But this particular issue, given the fact that we're going to be doing a recruitment for a replacement position and potentially a new one, wanted to make sure that from a policy perspective that you had this before you and that we would include that information in our recruitment and advertising efforts. So it is a policy decision. It's not, from my perspective as administrator, it's not a fiscal one. The City's Personnel and Finance Committee also unanimously recommended to the council that they adopt the inclusion of domestic partner benefits in our employee handbook as recommended.
I'll make a motion that the council approve adopting domestic partnership benefits in the employee handbook.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item D, discussion and possible action regarding ordinance 379, amend garages and accessory buildings.
This one is from Plan Commission. Presently in our ordinance, we have a duplex, only supposed to have one shed or one garage or one attached garage per lot. This updates our ordinance. It takes all of the existing duplexes that have a garage on each side of them, takes them from non-conforming to just being permitted. It also allows each person in a duplex to have on their side of the lot, either a shed or a garage. Presently, per lot, you can only have one unattached building, and except for all the old ones that are already existing, you couldn't have a garage on each side. So this gets rid of a lot of non-conforming garages, makes them legal, and gives each person, one storage shed or one garage.
So you cannot have an unattached garage and a storage shed.
No, you could have one per living unit.
Oh, okay.
So but you can't, you could have, so in the backyard of a duplex, there could be two buildings. The person that lives there, the owner could have, you can tell them what to have, but they could have a garage or a shed, or a garage or a shed, but not four buildings in the backyard, you could have two. And that's the same as a regular, single-family lot.
So this really just applied to duplexes?
It's, yeah, because the larger ones, they go to Plan Commission for site plans,
Okay.
commercial buildings and stuff.
Move to approve the first reading, waive the second and third readings, and adopt ordinance 379.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Item E, discussion and possible action regarding municipal court forfeiture amount for recommendation for ordinance 384, creating section 14-433, prohibiting alcohol impairment of operators while on duty.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As required by law, the municipal judge has recommended a forfeiture to be associated with the newly adopted ordinance that was created at your last regularly scheduled meeting. If the council finds that forfeiture to be acceptable, then you would approve that, and that would be the bond amount that the police officers would issue on any citations they may issue.
It's a big forfeiture. Does anybody have any concerns or questions on it?
I think it needs to be substantial. It's a deterrent.
Sends a message.
I'm just wondering, I don't disagree with it. How are we notifying all of them regarding the changes? I mean, do we get this information?
All the license holders be notified.
We could. We really hadn't talked about a plan, so we could ask Michelle, she won't be here. We'll ask
I mean, I just think perhaps some education could be beneficial as a part of this.
Yeah, we could ask Deanna and Michelle, all the Class A holders that operate, to give them
I think it'd be a good move.
Lieutenant Conger did discuss he's going to put this on their media outlooks and something
Okay.
that would also
We never heard anything from the Wisconsin Tavern League on this, did we? Okay, good. Well, they had said to another community that was doing something like this, they had shown up at a meeting and been kind of, shouted down a little bit.
Flying under the radar.
All right. Do you have a motion on this?
Move to approve municipal court forfeiture amount recommendation for ordinance 384.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Discussion and possible action authorizing the surplus sale of the unused Public Works Department copy multipurpose office machine.
Thank you, Mayor. As indicated in your memo, the city, as a result of its lease renewal that you approved at your last regularly scheduled meeting, now has an excess copier. It's in our Public Works Department, and the chamber, I was attending a board meeting, they had actually referenced having considerable challenges with the one that they have. And so one alternative that they had that staff had considered was recognizing that the chamber needs one and that we do a lot of things together in partnership, that we could potentially declare the excess one as surplus property and sell it to them for $1. That was one alternative that we have. There are other alternatives. You could put it in the city surplus auction. You can put it on Craigslist or eBay, but that was one alternative that we had. So it's really up to you what you want to do, but legally we do need to have it declared as surplus and then dispose of it in a manner that you authorize.
How reliable is this copier at this point in time?
It's the one we used until, we got the one from City Hall transferred to us.
Okay.
So it's been, the company with a lease, they come in and maintain it. So it's pretty much an overhaul on all the interior.
Okay.
So, it's old, so there might be something that goes wrong occasionally, but as far as just general printing, copying, there hasn't been any problems. So, and it's something that you can hook to the, for scanning your text and stuff too, so.
No, I've worked on copiers, and when they age, they don't get better.
Yeah, but it's had, part of the lease, they've redone quite a bit on it.
When we entered into the new lease agreement with the new office machines within the past month, it wasn't that any of them were failing. It was just time to upgrade and to take a look at the number of copies that we were making was not efficient to what our lease agreement was. So it was a good time to transition to new machines for all the departments. So it certainly wasn't failing, it was just it was a good timing.
I do like the idea of selling it to the Chamber of Commerce for $1, because we have heard that they have had troubles with theirs for quite a while. So what is it, you were asking for us to declare the copier surplus?
Declare it as surplus, and if you'd like to add to the motion, selling it to another
Or offering
organization.
to Chamber of Commerce for $1 and move that we offered to make this surplus.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item G, rebidding update on the police department project.
One just quick note here, a note from Angus and Young indicated they did send out the revised police department project with just the police department only. Essentially, all they did was lop off the city hall part of it and left everything else as is. In a conference room that is adjacent to the council chambers and municipal court, so if you wanted to exit into that, you could go in there for closed session rather than have people leave. Or depending on how you choose to do it, you could have people leave and go in there, but it is big enough to accommodate approximately somewhere between 12 and 14 people. That was sent out on August 15th and is due back on September 5th. So by the second meeting in September, unless the mayor would choose to call a special meeting, would be ready for potential bid acceptance.
Okay, no action required on that. Any questions? Item 5A, general items. Next meeting is Tuesday, September 3rd, 2013. Item B, mayor and alderpersons reports. I have just a couple of things. I'm sure everybody here is getting inquiries about the train whistles. And so I did speak with a guy by the name of Ken Lucht with Wisconsin Southern Railroad today about the establishment of quiet zones, which has been done in City of Madison, City of Milwaukee, Prairie du Chien, a bunch of places. And so staff will be looking into, we know the process, there's some costs associated with it, and then presenting that at a future meeting, probably the first one in September, I would imagine. Essentially what it comes down to is we have to install the supplementary security measures, gates that cross and divided medians, but then it becomes the responsibility of the operator, Wisconsin Southern, to maintain them from that point forward. So there's a capital investment, but I rarely get calls about negative things, and I've got flooded with people who can't think when the train goes off. Trains are required to blow their whistles 4 times, the 4th when it enters the intersection at every public at-grade crossing. And how many do we have? 7. So, that's a lot.
Growing up on the tracks, every conductor has their call. You get to know who's working without really knowing them based on how long they pull the whistle, so, yeah, I understand.
So that, the MS Mud Run will be happening again this weekend. Just so that everybody is aware, the city is an in-kind sponsor, has been for years by providing water at no cost to that. It's a great event that raises money for a very worthy cause. And then finally, the public nuisance. There are a couple of properties that I've got phone calls and emails on in town that folks consider to be public nuisances, and so staff and I are looking at what is an appropriate action to take, what are appropriate timelines, and at some point I expect that. Just gonna keep that on your radar. Any alderpersons reports? Staff reports, city administrator.
A couple quick things. I want to thank everyone who came out for the chicken barbecue this weekend, those volunteers that helped, very, very successful event. Alderperson Welch joined me in the shift of sitting in the dunk tank. Mayor Frazier's children tried to dunk me. And it was a good experience. Raised over $340 for the Milton Youth Coalition, which is a group partnership between the city and school district, other community leaders that tries to continue to create a culture in our community where bullying is not accepted. Great turnout, beautiful day. Great to see people enjoying all of our businesses. Great to see the event expand. And if there's one good thing about the Highway 26 bypass is next year we will not have to close the state highway to hold the event. So that's certainly a very positive thing. August 23rd, this Friday, is the grand opening, if you will, of the Highway 26 bypass. And so I have an email into Terry's shop to find out exactly the time, because if you can believe it, I've been asked on my son's football practice field, what time does it open, because I want to be the first one out there to drive it. And so it's actually generating some excitement. Once I do get the time known, we'll send that out publicly, and we'll also put reminders out to people on our city's website and other social media outlets, letting them know the bypass will be open. That's all.
Good, Public Works.
Oh, I was just going to ask, what will you do about closing off in front of the Milton House where the vendors set up next year? What is that called?
We'll do a city detour.
That's a city
It'll
one.
just be a municipal detour. Dickoff Drive is supposed to be started, maybe blacktop next week. And next brush collection starts right after Labor Day. And high school sports are starting next Friday night, so there'll be a lot of stuff going on around Hilltop.
You seem to have a lot of people leaving bulky junk items out lately. Is there any, how come all of a sudden that there's so many?
Well, this week is bulky trash week.
Yeah, they were jumping the gun.
It got a lot of, I don't know why, there was a lot out last week. A lot, really last week.
They had rummage sales too.
Yeah, I think it's a combination thing, rummage sales, kids moving away to college. and-
It almost looked like Madison. I mean, there was so much stuff.
Thank God for bulky pickup. That's all I gotta say. I love it.
Yeah, there was
Okay.
a lot last week.
Just happened to be how things fell, okay.
Yeah, what you noticed is correct, there's a lot of it out.
Will it?
Okay.
That's good.
take tires, will they?
Yes, they will.
Take tires, they take
Yep.
a certain amount, I mean, they'll only take a certain amount from each residence. If they came up there and saw 30 of them, they won't take it.
I think it's 4 or 8 for the full year,
For the
it'll
full
make sure
year.
per month.
Yeah, yeah, but they do take those.
Oh, because I see the neighbor had 2 of them out, and I thought, oh, gee, I don't know if they take them or not.
Yeah, they're supposed to,
Okay. Police Department.
We will be providing traffic control for the mud run Saturday. We'll be out there. However, they do use a lot of volunteers and DPW barricades for the other crossings. But we'll be on High Street trying to keep people safe as they stumble across the road.
I'll be one of them.
Yes. I was gonna do it, but I got injured, so I'm not. That's it.
Library. Oh, sorry.
I was just wondering, I wanted to ask, is the police department beefing up at all for the first week of school and the football practice and all of that busy time? Generally, school weeks.
Well, Officer Martin, the school resource officer, attends all those football games. He's our guy there, so.
But as far as traffic goes,
It's, well, obviously, the normal shifts know when the games are on and what to expect and extra patrol in the area, but we don't put officers on overtime, except for sometimes Officer Martin and his duties may be, but he generally tries to incorporate his schedule into those extracurricular events.
Okay, library. Joint fire. City clerk.
Everyone took mine. I was gonna update everyone on the special event for the Milton Mud Run as I sent out the other day, but everybody took mine. A reminder on behalf of the library, I know Lisa's getting ready, they have their, things set up
Yes.
upstairs for the rest of the
Exciting.
week. Public is welcome, certainly come put your input on the library design, brought some suggestions, see what they're thinking about. They certainly are looking for a lot of response. So they're gonna have it set up for the rest of the week, we encourage everyone to come up and check it out.
All right, city treasurer. All right, item 6.
consideration of a motion to convene into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin statute, section 19.85, paren 1, per D, deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive for bargaining reasons require a closed session, reference a contract for city logo and tagline, and parent G, conferring with legal counsel for governmental body who is rendering orally or written advice concerning strategy to be adopted by the body with respect to litigation in which it is or is likely to become involved. Reference United Ethanol Developments Agreement and odor complaints.
Motion, is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second, any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.